Ryan Carter wandered through the bustling mall, coffee in hand, his mind preoccupied with plans for a quiet family dinner that evening. The usual hum of shoppers surrounded him, laughter, footsteps, and occasional snippets of conversation blending into the background. As he approached the food court, the sight of his triplets, Madison, Max, and Mia, laughing together brought a smile to his face. He stopped a short distance away, leaning casually against a pillar, intending to surprise them. He took a sip of his coffee, savoring the moment. "Can you believe our loser dad actually trusts us with the company?" Max said, his voice cutting through the ambient noise like a dagger. Ryan froze mid-sip. "Seriously," Madison chimed in, flipping her hair. "Mom says once he hands it over on our 18th birthday, her boss, our real dad, will adopt us. It's so perfect." "Yeah," Mia added with a sly grin. "The adoption papers are already done. He just needs to sign, and then we're free of that clueless loser. Boom. We're rich forever." Ryan's hand tightened around his coffee cup, the plastic crinkling under the pressure. He stayed rooted, the words echoing in his mind. Clueless loser. Adoption papers. Mom's boss. Our real dad. The casual cruelty in their voices cut deeper than any wound he'd ever experienced. The triplets, oblivious to his presence, continued laughing, their smoothies clinking against the table. "Matthew's going to make everything better," Madison said. "I mean, he's already practically our dad. He's so much cooler than Ryan." "No kidding," Max agreed. "Dad's just some workaholic nerd. Matthew's got style, and he actually listens to Mom." Ryan's stomach churned. His love for his family had been the driving force behind every sleepless night, every risk he'd taken to build his billion-dollar company. And now this? The very people he lived for were conspiring against him, casually dismissing his worth. But amidst the fury and pain, a cold determination began to take shape. Ryan stepped back, careful not to alert them, and walked briskly toward an empty corner of the mall. He pulled out his phone, his mind racing. Over the last few months, he'd been in negotiations to sell his company, and last week, the deal had closed. He hadn't told Emily yet, intending to surprise her with the news. Now, the knowledge felt like a weapon, a sharp blade he could wield against her betrayal. The company hadn't gone to just anyone. It had been sold to Victor Blackwell, the fierce rival of Matthew Harrington, Emily's lover. Ryan's lips curled into a grim smile. His triplet smug little plan was about to implode before it even began. Ryan dialed his assistant, Linda. She picked up on the first ring. "Mr. Carter?" "Linda, I need you to prepare something for me." "Confidential," Ryan said, his voice calm but firm. "I want a complete dossier on Matthew Harrington. Everything we've got. Financials, personal life, the works." "Understood," Linda replied without hesitation. "Anything else?" "Yes," Ryan said, his tone dropping. "Pull any communications between Emily and him. I want to know everything." "Consider it done," Linda assured him before hanging up. Ryan stared at his phone for a moment, his reflection caught in the dark screen. The man looking back at him wasn't the one who had walked into the mall earlier. That man had been trusting, hopeful, perhaps even a little naive. This man? He was cold, calculating, and ready for war. He made his way back toward the food court, but this time he stayed out of sight, watching his children with a mix of heartbreak and determination. Madison leaned in closer to her siblings. "Mom says Dad's been distracted lately. He won't even see it coming." "Good," Max replied, his tone dripping with arrogance. "The sooner we're out from under him, the better. And then it'll be all about us," Mia added, stirring her smoothie with a straw. "Matthew said he can't wait to be our real dad. He's way more fun than Ryan ever was." Ryan turned away, unable to stomach any more. As he walked toward the exit, his thoughts raced. Distraction? Huh? He almost laughed. They had no idea what was coming. By the time he reached his car, his resolve had solidified. The betrayal cut deep, but it had also awakened something dormant within him, a ruthless drive he hadn't felt in years. As he sat behind the wheel, his phone buzzed with a message from Linda. "Preliminary report on Harrington sent to your secure email. Call if you need more." Ryan opened the email and skimmed through the contents. Matthew's financials were precarious at best. His company was teetering on the edge of insolvency, propped up only by deals reliant on Ryan's former tech empire. Deals that Victor Blackwell would undoubtedly dismantle piece by piece. Checkmate, Ryan murmured to himself, starting the car. The drive home felt longer than usual, the mansion looming in the distance like a hollow shell. Ryan parked in the driveway, pausing for a moment to gather his thoughts. He couldn't confront Emily, not yet. There was more work to be done, more pieces to move into place. As he stepped inside, the familiar scent of dinner greeted him. Emily was in the kitchen, humming to herself as she stirred a pot on the stove. She looked up and smiled. "You're home early," she said. "How was your day?" Ryan forced a smile. "Uneventful." "Yours?" Emily hesitated for a split second, a flicker of something crossing her face before she regained her composure. "Busy as always. Matthew's got a big project coming up, so I've been helping him get everything in order." "Must be exhausting," Ryan said, keeping his tone neutral. "It is," Emily replied, setting the spoon down. "But it's worth it. He's such a visionary." Ryan nodded, biting back the retort that danced on the tip of his tongue. Instead, he walked over to the cabinet and poured himself a glass of wine. "The kids home?" he asked casually. "Not yet," Emily said. "They're at the mall. They said they might see a movie after." Ryan took a sip of his wine, his mind racing. He would let her believe she had the upper hand for now. But soon, the truth would come crashing down around her, and he would be there to watch it all unfold. As Emily turned back to the stove, Ryan's phone buzzed again. Another update from Linda, no doubt. He glanced at the screen, his smirk returning. The game had begun. Next day, Ryan stepped into the mansion, the hum of soft classical music floating through the air. Emily was in the living room, reclining on the plush, cream-colored sofa, a glass of red wine in her hand. Her phone was perched on the coffee table, screen dark. She glanced up and gave him a radiant smile. "You're home early," she said, her voice light and cheerful. Ryan walked toward her, setting his briefcase down near the entryway. He loosened his tie and shrugged off his jacket, hanging it over a chair. "I wrapped up everything early," he replied. His tone was measured, his expression calm, but his mind churned with thoughts of the betrayal he'd uncovered earlier that day. He sat on the armchair across from her, studying her. "How was your day, sweetheart?" Emily sipped her wine, her lips curving upward in a smile that, to Ryan, now felt rehearsed. "Busy as always. Matthew's new project is taking up all my time." The name Matthew hit him like a slap. He felt the muscles in his jaw tighten, but he didn't let it show. "That's good," he said, his voice steady. "You've been working so hard lately. I hope it's paying off." Emily nodded, swirling her wine in the glass. "It is. He's a perfectionist, so it's been demanding, but rewarding too." "I bet it is," Ryan said, leaning back in his chair. His gaze flickered to her phone, wondering if she had been texting Matthew just before he walked in. Emily tilted her head, studying him. "You seem tense. Everything okay at work?" Ryan forced a small laugh. "Work is always chaotic, but manageable. I guess I've been preoccupied with the future." Emily's smile faltered for a moment before she recovered. "You've built something amazing, Ryan. You deserve to think about slowing down." "Maybe I will," he said. "Sooner than you think." Her brow furrowed slightly, but she didn't press. Ryan let the moment hang before standing and walking toward the kitchen. "Want another glass?" he called over his shoulder. "Sure," Emily replied, her voice drifting from the living room. As he opened the bottle and poured her another glass, Ryan's mind replayed the fragments of the triplets' conversation from earlier that day. The betrayal wasn't just hers. It was their children's too. The enormity of it all threatened to overwhelm him, but he focused on the task at hand. He wasn't ready to confront her yet. When he handed her the glass, she smiled up at him. "Thanks, babe. You're always so thoughtful." He returned her smile, but said nothing. Later that night, after Emily had gone to bed, Ryan sat in his study, the glow of his laptop illuminating his face. He hesitated for a moment before opening her email account. The password was one he had guessed on the first try, her birth year, and the name of her favorite author. The inbox was filled with mundane work emails, but it didn't take long for Ryan to find the ones he was looking for. A folder marked Personal contained a string of exchanges between Emily and Matthew. He opened the first email. Emily, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. I'll make sure this project keeps us working late together. Ryan's grip on the mouse tightened. He clicked on another. Matthew, I'm tired of pretending at home. Ryan is so oblivious. I can't wait until everything is finalized, and we can be together. Emily. Each message was another blow, each one confirming what he already knew. Then he found the photos, selfies of them together at a hotel, laughing, their faces close, her hand on his chest. Ryan leaned back in his chair, his hands resting on the desk. The betrayal wasn't a fleeting affair. It was a calculated, deliberate dismantling of their marriage. You won't see it coming, will you, darling? He muttered to himself, a cocky smirk playing on his lips. He clicked through more emails, finding mentions of the adoption papers, discussions about how Ryan would hand over the company to the triplets, and Emily's plans to sever ties with him afterward. Clueless loser, huh? Ryan said softly, shaking his head. He closed the laptop and leaned forward, his elbows resting on the desk. He stayed like that for a long time, staring at the darkened screen, his mind racing with plans. The next morning, Ryan was up early, making coffee in the kitchen when Emily walked in. She was wearing a robe, her hair slightly disheveled. You're up early, she said, yawning. Couldn't sleep, Ryan replied. He handed her a cup of coffee. She took it and leaned against the counter, studying him. Something on your mind? Ryan shook his head. Just thinking about work. You know how it is? Always, Emily said with a chuckle. You should take a break sometime, Ryan. Life isn't all about work. Ryan nodded. You're right. Maybe it's time for a change. Her expression softened, and she reached out to touch his arm. I just want you to be happy. Ryan held her gaze, his smile not reaching his eyes. I want the same for you, Emily. She hesitated for a moment before pulling her hand back. Well, I need to get ready for work. Matthew's expecting me early. Of course, Ryan said, taking a sip of his coffee. Wouldn't want to keep him waiting. She paused, glancing at him. But he was already turning away, his focus seemingly on the newspaper he had picked up. That evening, after Emily had gone to bed, Ryan sat in his study again, making a list of everything he needed to do. The sale of the company was finalized, but now he needed to ensure the rest of his plan fell into place. He picked up his phone and dialed Linda. Mr. Carter, she answered immediately. Linda, I need a second favor, he said. This one's personal. Anything, she replied. I need someone who can track communication discreetly, Ryan said. Text messages, calls, everything. I'll arrange it, Linda said without hesitation. And Linda, Ryan added, his voice cold, this stays between us. No one else? Understood, she said before hanging up. Ryan set the phone down and leaned back in his chair, staring at the ceiling. The betrayal ran deeper than he could have imagined, but he wasn't going to let it break him. If anything, it had sharpened his focus. As he sat there in the quiet of the study, he allowed himself one moment of anger, his fist slamming down onto the desk. The sound echoed through the room, but it was the last outburst he would allow himself. From now on, every move would be calculated, every step part of a greater plan. You've underestimated me, Emily, he said aloud, his voice steady. But that's about to change. Ryan sat in his sleek corner office, the skyline of the city stretching out before him. On his desk were the final documents confirming the sale of his company to Victor Blackwell. He stared at the papers for a moment, the gravity of what he'd done sinking in. This was the first domino in a line that would topple everything Emily and Matthew had plotted. Picking up his phone, he called Victor. Carter, Victor's gruff voice answered. I assume you're calling to finalize the transition? More than that, Ryan replied, his tone sharp. I need you to move quickly. Strip it down. Restructure it however you see fit. I don't care if it's unrecognizable by the end of the month. Victor chuckled darkly. You really are handing me a goldmine, Carter. Harrington's firm won't survive this. That's the idea, Ryan said, his voice cold. Make sure the collapse is public. I want them scrambling. Consider it done, Victor said before hanging up. Ryan leaned back in his chair, exhaling slowly. Step one was complete. Now it was time to set the stage at home. That evening, Ryan arrived at the mansion early enough to catch the triplets gathered around the kitchen island. Madison was scrolling through her phone, Max was rifling through the fridge, and Mia was doodling on a notepad. They barely acknowledged his presence. "Hey, kids," Ryan said, setting his briefcase down. "Oh, hey, Dad," Madison said, not looking up from her phone. Max muttered a vague greeting, while Mia gave him a quick glance before returning to her sketch. Ryan studied them for a moment. Their indifference no longer stung as it once did. Instead, it fueled his resolve. "Where's your mom?" he asked. "Upstairs," Max said, his head buried in the fridge. "Probably talking to Matthew again." Ryan's expression didn't falter. He nodded and headed for the dining room, where the housekeeper was setting the table. At dinner, Ryan waited until everyone was seated before clearing his throat. "I've been thinking," he began, his tone casual. "It's time for me to take a step back from work." The triplets exchanged confused glances, but Emily's reaction was far more telling. Her hand froze midway to her wine glass, her eyes narrowing slightly before she forced a smile. "That's unexpected," she said, her tone light. "Are you sure everything's okay?" Ryan met her gaze, his expression unreadable. "Never been better. I've worked hard for years. It's time I enjoy the fruits of my labor." "What does that mean?" Max asked, a hint of curiosity in his voice. "It means I'm taking a sabbatical," Ryan replied. "A long one. I've already sold the company." Emily's smile faltered, her grip tightening on her glass. "You sold it? To who?" Ryan shrugged, keeping his tone deliberately nonchalant. "Victor Blackwell." The name landed like a bomb. Emily's face paled, and the triplets looked bewildered. "Blackwell," she repeated, her voice cracking slightly. "Ryan, why would you do that?" "Why not?" Ryan said, leaning back in his chair. "He offered the best deal. And honestly, I trust him to make the hard decisions to keep it competitive." "But," Emily trailed off, her mind clearly racing. She quickly composed herself. "Well, if it's what you want, I support you." Ryan smiled faintly. "Good to hear. It's already done, so there's no going back." The rest of dinner passed in strained silence, the triplets too preoccupied with their phones to notice the tension between their parents. Later that night, Ryan stood in the study, reviewing the next steps with his legal team via a secure video call. "I want the trust funds dissolved by the end of the week," he said firmly. One of the lawyers frowned. "Mr. Carter, are you sure? These funds were established for your children's future." "Their future will be just fine," Ryan said, his voice icy. "I've made other arrangements." "Dissolve the accounts?" The lawyer nodded. "Understood. And the accounts tied to your wife?" "Frozen," Ryan replied. "She doesn't see a cent until I say so." The call ended, and Ryan leaned back in his chair, his mind racing. The financial noose around Emily and Matthew was tightening. By the end of the week, news of the sale and Victor Blackwell's ruthless restructuring hit the headlines. Matthew Harrington's firm, which relied heavily on partnerships with Ryan's former company, began to spiral. Investors pulled out, clients fled, and rumors of bankruptcy swirled. Ryan watched the chaos unfold with grim satisfaction. One evening, Emily stormed into his study, her usual composed demeanor replaced by anger. "What the hell is going on, Ryan?" she demanded, slamming the door behind her. Ryan didn't look up from his laptop. "Care to elaborate?" "Blackwell is tearing apart everything. Matthew's company is on the verge of collapse because of this." Ryan finally looked at her, his expression calm. "And why should that concern me?" Emily froze, her mouth opening and closing as she struggled to find the right words. It's just we had plans. This wasn't supposed to happen." "Plans?" Ryan echoed, his tone cold. "What kind of plans, Emily?" She hesitated, the color draining from her face. "I mean, you've disrupted the entire industry. It affects everyone." "Everyone," Ryan repeated, his gaze piercing. "Funny, I don't recall Matthew being my concern." Emily's hands balled into fists. "You're acting like this was all intentional." Ryan leaned back in his chair, a faint smirk on his lips. "Maybe it was." The silence between them was deafening. Emily's eyes widened as realization dawned. "You knew," she whispered. Ryan didn't reply. Instead, he stood and walked past her, pausing at the door. "Good night, Emily," he said before leaving the room. In the following days, Matthew's situation grew more desperate. Lawsuits, quietly orchestrated by Ryan's legal team, piled on top of his firm's financial troubles. Meanwhile, Ryan maintained his calm facade at home, playing the role of the indifferent husband. One evening, the triplets approached him in the living room. "Dad," Madison began hesitantly. "Can we talk?" "Of course," Ryan said, setting down his book. "We heard Mom talking earlier," Max said, shifting uncomfortably. "About money problems?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "Money problems? I wasn't aware we had any." "Well," Mia interjected, "she said something about you freezing accounts." "Is that true?" Ryan leaned forward, his expression serious. "It's true. I've made some changes to ensure our family's future is secure." "But what about our trust funds?" Madison asked, panic creeping into her voice. "Gone," Ryan said bluntly. "You'll need to earn your way in life, just like I did." The triplets stared at him, their disbelief turning into anger. "This isn't fair," Max shouted. "You're ruining everything." Ryan's gaze hardened. "Fair? You have no idea what fairness is." "But you will." He stood, leaving them speechless, their protests ringing in his ears as he walked away. The trap was set, and Ryan knew it was only a matter of time before the final pieces fell into place. The morning sun streamed through the sheer curtains of the master bedroom as Emily groggily reached for her phone on the nightstand. She frowned as multiple notifications from news apps lit up her screen. Unlocking her phone, her heart stopped at the headline plastered across every major outlet. "Corporate tycoon Matthew Harrington arrested for embezzlement. Investigation reveals massive fraud scandal." Emily sat up abruptly, her hands trembling as she tapped on the article. The details were damning: embezzled funds, offshore accounts, and whistleblowers exposing Matthew's schemes. His arrest had been swift, leaving his company in financial ruins. "No, no, no, no," Emily whispered, her voice rising into a panicked shriek. She scrambled out of bed, dialing Matthew's number. The call went straight to voicemail. "Matthew, call me back. What is going on?" "This can't be true," she pleaded, her voice cracking. Downstairs, the triplets were already gathered in the living room, staring at the television in stunned silence. The news anchors dissected Matthew's downfall in excruciating detail. "Mom is going to lose it," Max muttered, running a hand through his hair. "What does this mean for us?" Madison asked, her voice shaky. Before anyone could answer, Emily stormed into the room, her face pale, clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. "Mom, is it true?" Mia asked hesitantly. Emily ignored her, pacing frantically. "It's a mistake. It has to be. Matthew wouldn't, he couldn't." Her voice trailed off as the housekeeper entered with a note. "Mrs. Carter," she said timidly, "this was just delivered from Mr. Carter." Emily snatched the note before the housekeeper could hand it over. It was from the family lawyer, addressed to Ryan. Her eyes scanned the words, and her panic deepened. "Ryan," she whispered, her breath catching. He knew. In his private gym, Ryan was finishing a set of pull-ups when Emily barged in, her hair disheveled and her expression frantic. "Ryan," she cried, "what is going on?" "Matthew's been arrested. His company is collapsing. And now this." She waved the letter in the air. Ryan calmly wiped the sweat from his face and turned to her, his expression unreadable. "Good morning to you too, Emily. Don't play coy," she snapped. "Did you have something to do with this?" Ryan raised an eyebrow. "With what? Matthew's arrest? The collapse of his company? Sounds like he brought that on himself." Emily's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. You sold the company to Victor Blackwell. You must have known this would happen." Ryan smirked. "Oh, I knew. Matthew's been running shady deals for years. It was only a matter of time before someone tipped off the authorities. Victor just gave them the nudge they needed." Emily's face turned crimson. "How could you? Do you know what you've done to us? To our children? To our children?" Ryan repeated, his voice cold. "You mean the same children who called me a clueless loser? Who plotted with their real dad to dump me after I signed over my company? Spare me the act, Emily." Emily staggered back, as though he had slapped her. "You heard," she whispered, her eyes wide. "Every single word," Ryan said, stepping closer. His voice grew sharper with every syllable. I heard how you and your lover planned to take everything I built. How you laughed behind my back. And the kids? You've poisoned them against me. But guess what, Emily? The joke's on you. Meanwhile, in the living room, the triplets were glued to the news. The screen now displayed a reporter standing outside Matthew's office as authorities hauled boxes of documents to waiting vans. Dad's going to freak out when he sees this, Max muttered. The sound of footsteps made them all turn. Ryan entered, his expression calm, but his eyes sharp. Dad, Madison said, her voice trembling. What's happening? We saw the news. Ryan folded his arms. What's happening? Let me explain it in terms you'll understand. Your mother's little plan to make Harrington your real dad just imploded. His company is finished, his assets are frozen, and he's facing charges that will keep him locked up for a long time. The triplets stared at him, their faces a mix of confusion and fear. What? What about us? Mia stammered. Ryan's smirk was cold. Oh, you mean the clueless loser you planned to dump? Funny how you're suddenly worried about me now that your safety net is gone. Madison's eyes filled with tears. We didn't mean it, Dad. We were just caught up in Mom's plans. Caught up? Ryan repeated, his voice rising. You didn't just go along with it. You mocked me. You dismissed me like I was nothing. And now you want my help? Max stepped forward, anger replacing his fear. You're being unfair. We're your kids. Ryan's gaze hardened. You stopped being my kids the moment you decided I was disposable. Actions have consequences. Max, welcome to the real world. Emily entered the room, her face streaked with tears. Ryan, please, she begged. We were wrong. I was wrong. I got caught up in something I couldn't control. But we can fix this. Ryan turned to her, his expression blank. Fix this? You don't get it, do you, Emily? There's nothing left to fix. You destroyed everything the moment you chose him over me. Now, you get to live with the consequences. Emily fell to her knees, sobbing. Please, Ryan, don't do this to the kids. Don't do this to me. Ryan crouched down to her level, his voice ice cold. You think this is me doing something to you? No, Emily. This is you reaping what you sowed. Enjoy the life you and Matthew planned so carefully. Oh, wait, it's gone. As the day wore on, the triplets retreated to their rooms, their panic mounting as the reality of their situation set in. Emily remained in the living room, staring blankly at the floor. Ryan, on the other hand, poured himself a drink and stepped out onto the patio. The cool evening air felt refreshing against his skin. He gazed at the horizon, his mind strangely calm. He had lost his family, but the betrayal had stripped away any illusion of what they truly were. Now, he was free to start anew, leaving the shadows of deception behind. Inside, Emily wept, the sound carrying into the night, a fitting soundtrack to the fallout of their choices. Ryan leaned back in a weathered wooden chair on the sun-drenched patio of his beachfront villa. The rhythmic crash of waves and the warm, salty breeze brought a sense of calm he hadn't felt in years. It had been 6 months since he left behind his former life, and while the betrayal still lingered in the back of his mind, the tropical paradise provided the perfect escape. A faint laugh broke his thoughts. Samantha Blake, an old college friend, walked out of the villa carrying 2 glasses of iced tea. Her sun hat cast a soft shadow over her face, but her bright smile was unmistakable. You're lost in thought again, she teased, placing a glass on the table in front of him. Planning another world takeover? Ryan chuckled, shaking his head. No, for once, I'm just enjoying the moment. Samantha settled into the chair next to him, her expression softening. I have to admit, I didn't think you'd actually take my advice and move out here. Neither did I, Ryan admitted. But after everything that happened, I realized I needed a clean break. You were right, this place is exactly what I needed. Back in the city, Emily sat in the cramped living room of a small apartment, flipping through stacks of bills she couldn't pay. The once pristine nails she had flaunted at high society events were now chipped and unkempt. Matthew sat across from her, staring blankly at the television that displayed an endless loop of news coverage about his scandal. We can't keep living like this, Emily said, her voice a mix of frustration and despair. I've tried reaching out to Ryan. He won't answer my calls or emails. Matthew didn't look up. What do you expect me to do about it? You think he's going to forgive us after everything? Emily slammed the stack of bills on the table. We have 3 kids to think about. They've never lived like this, Matthew. They're struggling. And whose fault is that? Matthew shot back, his tone sharp. You're the one who convinced me to go along with your little plan. Now look where it got us. Emily's eyes filled with tears. We have to try again. Maybe if the kids write to him. At the villa, Ryan was engrossed in a conversation with Samantha about a new charity project she was spearheading. It's a scholarship program for underprivileged kids, she explained, her enthusiasm lighting up her face. I want to give them opportunities they'd never have otherwise. Ryan nodded, impressed. Count me in. Whatever you need, funding, connections, logistics, I'll help. Samantha smiled warmly. I knew I could count on you. But are you sure you're ready to dive into something like this? It's a big commitment. I'm ready, Ryan said firmly. This feels right. Helping people who actually appreciate it, who need it, it's a far cry from the life I left behind. As they spoke, a delivery arrived, a thick envelope addressed to Ryan. Samantha raised an eyebrow. More fan mail? Ryan smirked, taking the envelope. Doubt it. Opening it, he found a stack of handwritten letters from his triplets. He scanned the first one, penned by Madison. Dad, we're so sorry. We didn't mean what we said. We were stupid, and we let Mom's bitterness influence us. Please, can we talk? We miss you. We need you. Max and Mia's letters echoed similar sentiments, each pleading for forgiveness and another chance. Ryan sighed, setting the letters aside. Bad news? Samantha asked, noticing his somber expression. Not bad. Just old ghosts trying to find their way back, Ryan replied, his tone unreadable. Samantha didn't press further, instead placing a comforting hand on his. Take your time. In the cramped apartment, the triplets sat around the kitchen table, their faces downcast. Do you think he'll respond? Max asked, breaking the silence. Mia shrugged. I don't know, but we had to try. It's our fault too, Madison said, her voice barely above a whisper. We treated him like he didn't matter. And now he's gone. Emily walked in, hearing the tail end of their conversation. Her heart ached for her children, but also for herself. She had destroyed the man who had given her everything and dragged her children into the mess. He'll come around, she said, trying to sound hopeful. He's your father. He loves you. Ryan and Samantha spent the following weeks finalizing the details of the scholarship program. Working together brought them closer, and the bond they had shared in college deepened into something more profound. One evening, as they sat by a crackling fire on the beach, Ryan turned to Samantha. You've helped me more than you realize, he said. After everything, I thought I'd never trust anyone again. But with you it's different. Samantha smiled, her eyes reflecting the firelight. That's because I'm not here to take anything from you, Ryan. I'm just here. Her words hit him like a wave, washing away the lingering bitterness in his heart. I think I'm ready to start over, Ryan said, his voice steady. Samantha leaned closer, resting her head on his shoulder. Good. Because you deserve it. Emily and the triplets received no response from Ryan. As weeks turned into months, hope dwindled. The luxurious lifestyle they once took for granted was a distant memory, replaced by the stark reality of working to make ends meet. For Ryan, life moved forward. The scholarship program flourished, helping dozens of students achieve their dreams. His relationship with Samantha blossomed into something beautiful, built on trust and mutual respect. One day, as he stood on the balcony of their villa, watching the sunset, Ryan reflected on the path that had brought him here. Sometimes, he thought, letting go is the greatest revenge of all. Beside him, Samantha joined him, her presence a comforting reminder that even after the darkest storms, a new beginning was always possible. Years had passed since Ryan Carter had last set foot in the city he once ruled. The bustling streets, the towering skyscrapers, everything felt both familiar and foreign to him. Now, his visit wasn't for business, but for a charity gala hosted by the Scholarship Foundation he and Samantha had built together. The ballroom of the city's grandest hotel was a sea of finely dressed philanthropists, journalists, and beneficiaries. Samantha stood by his side, radiant and composed, her smile a calming anchor in the whirlwind of activity. "Ryan, everyone's eager to meet you," she said, nudging him gently. Ryan smirked. "I'm not the star here. That's you. I'm just here to make sure no one asks for a loan." Samantha laughed softly and kissed his cheek. "You'll do fine." The night went smoothly. Ryan gave a heartfelt speech about second chances, resilience, and the importance of helping those who truly needed it. The crowd responded with applause, but he didn't miss the undertone of whispers. It wasn't just admiration. They were remembering the scandals of his past, the man who had disappeared and left chaos in his wake. As the gala wound down, Ryan wandered toward the quieter corners of the room. That's when he saw her. Emily. She was barely recognizable. Gone was the polished, confident woman he once knew. Her designer clothes were replaced by a modest dress, her hair streaked with gray. She looked older than her years, her face etched with the lines of regret and hardship. She hesitated before approaching him, clutching a small handbag like a lifeline. "Ryan," she said, her voice tentative, almost breaking. Ryan turned, surprised but composed. "Emily." She smiled faintly, though it didn't reach her eyes. "You look good. Life has been kind to you." Ryan glanced back at Samantha, who was speaking with a group of young students across the room. He nodded. "It has. And to you." Emily gave a bitter laugh. "You don't have to pretend to care. I know what I deserve." Ryan said nothing, letting the weight of her words hang in the air. Emily took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. "I wanted to say, I made mistakes. Terrible ones. I don't expect forgiveness. But I hope you found happiness." Ryan studied her for a moment. This was not the manipulative, calculating woman who had betrayed him. She was broken, humbled. "I have," he said simply. "And I hope you've learned the cost of betrayal." Emily nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. "I learned too late, but yes, I've learned." She hesitated, then added, "The kids, they talk about you all the time. They regret everything. They're doing their best to make something of themselves now, despite—" She trailed off. "Despite the life you planned for them falling apart." Ryan finished for her, his tone neutral. Emily winced but nodded. "Yes." Before Ryan could respond, Samantha approached, her presence warm and steady. "Hi," she said, glancing between them. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Emily shook her head quickly. "No, not at all. You must be Samantha." Samantha smiled politely. "And you're Emily?" There was no hostility in her tone, just quiet understanding. It was enough to make Emily's composure falter. "He's a good man," Emily said softly. "I'm glad he found someone like you." Samantha reached for Ryan's hand, lacing her fingers with his. "I think we found each other. And I think he's done a lot of good, more than he gives himself credit for." Ryan gave Samantha's hand a light squeeze. He looked back at Emily, his expression unreadable. "Life has a way of teaching us lessons, Emily," he said finally. "I hope yours leads to something better." Emily nodded, her voice barely audible. "Thank you." As Emily turned to leave, Samantha watched her go, her brow furrowing slightly. "She seems different than I expected." "Tom does that," Ryan said. "But it doesn't erase what she did." Samantha nodded, understanding. "Do you ever think about the kids? About reaching out?" Ryan sighed. "Sometimes. But they made their choices too. They weren't just kids by then, they knew right from wrong." He paused. "If they want to find their way back, they'll have to do it on their own." Samantha leaned her head against his shoulder. "You've come a long way, Ryan. You've rebuilt your life. That's what matters." Later that night, as the gala ended and Ryan and Samantha prepared to leave, he caught one last glimpse of Emily standing near the exit. Their eyes met briefly before she disappeared into the crowd. For the first time, Ryan felt no anger, no bitterness, only a distant sense of closure. Stepping outside, he and Samantha walked hand in hand toward their car. The city's lights glittered around them, but it was the quiet warmth between them that mattered most. "Ready to go?" Samantha asked. Ryan smiled. "More than ready." And with that, they drove off into the night, leaving the shadows of betrayal behind them for good.